The Ducktales episode, what was this one called? The Missing Links of Moorshire? Not sure why it's called that. Genuinely have no idea. It's pretty fun, though, regardless of its nonsensical title. It has a lot of elements to it, like a ton of elements to it, but they all work surprisingly well. You don't feel overwhelmed by them at all, and if anything, it just gives you a reason to rewatch the episodes so you can maybe absorb some of them a little more thoroughly than you did the first time through. In this episode, Scrooge is playing a billionaires-only golf game against his rival, an idiot bearded Scrooge, or whatever his name is. And he's brought the boys and Webby and Launchpad with him, and they all have something going on. Louis kind of hates golf, he's super bored by it, but he does like money. And so when... what was his name? What is his name? Glomgold? Is that his name? When Glomgold needs a caddy, he agrees to put aside his boredom just enough to milk Glomgold for all of his cash, which, I mean, redistribute that wealth. You guys know I'm all for this. Demand the value of your labor. Meanwhile, Dewey finds out he's actually very naturally talented at golf and becomes something of Scrooge's protege, because Scrooge is pretty dang good at it too. Webby gets super into the sport since she's never really had the opportunity to be excited by a sport before, and becomes Scrooge's over-enthusiastic to the point of being an annoying fan. And Huey and Launchpad act as announcers for the game, Launchpad's announcer voice being one of the funniest aspects of the episode. And even if the episode had just been this, it had just been straight up them playing golf against each other while all these elements happen in the background, that would have been enough for this episode to be really good. But then they accidentally fail their way into a weird magical druid golf game in another reality, where there's a couple of My Little Pony characters failing terribly to trick them to a watery grave, and they have to run away from this mist, or rather play ahead of this mist that'll turn them to stone. And it doesn't seem like they're scoring themselves here. They just have to make valid plays that get them to the next hole in sequence until they reach the last hole. And then if they get in the last hole, they go home. And it's more of a race. Whichever of the players gets there first wins. And you can have teams, so you can switch off people. And so Scrooge and Dewey take turns playing for their side. And Scrooge gets more and more agitated over time as Dewey just Happy Gilmores his way to one hole-in-one after another. Scrooge is good because he has experience and he thinks his plays through, whereas Dewey can just muscle his way to successfully scoring. And it annoys him. And that ends up being the message of the episode. He has to learn to support the talented people around him, even if he does feel kind of jealous of them, because that's the right thing to do. Dewey's family. And also, Dewey's the only one capable of making the final shot they need to escape this hellish realm. And even the game itself has so many additional elements to it, like the druid golf balls are these little orbs that glow and they electrocute you if you touch them, or if you touch them with something metal. So you have to use non-conductive wooden golf clubs. At least they looked like wood. They might have been stone, maybe. They looked like wood instead of the regular metal ones. And there's all of these other obstacles like living water and living trees and stuff that you have to account for, or in some cases actually make use of. Like straight up any one of the holes in the druid golf game probably could have been expanded into its own episode. It's all very cool and yet still isn't overwhelming as a viewer. It's weird because there's not much more to say about this one, because there are all of these elements, but they fit together so seamlessly to deliver some really excellent, not just comedy, but also some pretty cool actionier scenes involving a golf game. They all come together to be just a really good episode of the show, a really solid, fun episode of the show. It doesn't really progress the story of the show at all. It doesn't really develop the characters a ton, though Scrooge is shown to be a good-hearted and supportive person, a person who is supportive of his family members, even if he does stumble at doing so at the start. But it's so woven together, it's so well woven together, that it doesn't need to be more than what it is on the surface. It's just super fun to watch. I even really liked how the existence of the druid golf game relates back to their family's history. Because, of course, Scrooge is Scottish, and golf is a Scottish game. It's of Scottish origin, so that makes sense. That was even pretty neat. And did, I guess, technically serve to expand the lore of the show. And frankly, I think following this episode's example and hosting all golf games in an alternate reality would be a net positive for society, because golf is a super wasteful game. Like, I have a bit of a soft spot for it because it's one of the things that me and my grandpa could both sit and enjoy together. But it's a very wasteful game. It takes up so much space that could be used for other things, like highly curated artificial golf courses here in the US. Those are the ones I have exposure to, so those are the ones I'm going to talk about. Take up so much space that could be used for other stuff and use so much water and so many resources that could be going to better causes, that genuinely I feel like we should drastically cut back on the game in this country. Just straight up. So if we could find a way to move them all to an alternate reality where that stopped being true, it would be pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. So, all of that said, though, if you guys have seen, again, what was this one? The Missing Links of Moorshire. The Missing Links of Moorshire. Why is it called that? I don't know. If you have seen the episode, The Missing Links of Moorshire, what do you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.